weren't all that great when you graduated from KU. What was it that helped you get that first job?
Okay, well, I got off to a bad start. I had a pretty good finish. Are you still in semester hours here? I took 18 hours each semester my senior year and had 15 hours of A and 3 hours of B. So they started off kind of bad, but they finished quite well. I suspect it was some of the extracurricular activities and the passion that I demonstrated about cars. I really, I think those two things. Again, whatever really turns you on is what you want to do. If it's not engineering, you ought to get out and do something that really turns you on. Because you're not going to be very good at something that you're not passionate about. I always said, I don't want a job, I want a career. There's a big difference. And keep looking and find something that you are passionate about, that you really can turn you on, makes you, excites you. You don't have to struggle to get out of bed and go there every morning, because you're going to be doing that, the rest of your life. So find something that you enjoy. And passion, you can use whatever word you want to use, but it's something that makes you excited to get up and go to work. And you'll be successful, I guarantee you, with that. Without it, you may be happy, and that's perfectly fine, as I've said many times here today. Have a good balance in your life, great family, and being happy, etc. That's the most important thing in life. So that's not only perfectly fine, I think that's very, very admirable. And I didn't expect to ever do anything different than that, by the way. As I said, I did not have any aspirations, or I didn't have a plan. There was a time I was discussing with a guy somebody that graduated same year I did at University of Nebraska in mechanical engineering. We had to start work the very same day. We're still very close friends, very close friends. And after we'd been there about 3 or 4 years, 3 years, I guess, we said, boy, we'd really have a successful career if we made staff people here. I did that by the time I was 27. I didn't have any aspirations beyond that. That's what I thought I would be a good, successful career. And I believe I'd have a happy and successful life from my own standpoint if I that's all I've done, because it was engineering, it was cars, it was things that I thoroughly enjoyed doing. And fortunately, I was happy going on. That guy, every way I could think of was capable as I, but he didn't like taking new challenges. What this gentleman over here in the white mentioned, he'd get offered a job and he'd say, gee, I like what I'm doing now. And he did fine, and he's very, very happy with it. He's happy as I am, but it shows the difference in people. And he did really quite have a passion.
I was just curious on some of the organizations and things you're involved in here at KU and some of your favorite classes you had.
One of my Professor Foreman, who I believe is did a design course, and it was a group project, a senior project. I thoroughly loved that. Professor Alholtz, who is, I understand, still here. I had 2 classes, 3 from him, and I don't think there he is. I'll have to tell you, I only failed 1 class my entire life. really enjoyed my years here. Probably should have enjoyed it a little bit less the first year and studied a little harder, but that all worked out fine. It's a great school, and I really mean what I said. I think the problem-solving approach that you get from engineering makes you well-suited for absolutely anything out there. I love to see our politicians and our attorneys be required to have an engineering background. Even if they went on and did what they're doing now. But, you know, you end up with a problem-solving approach that we all get trained in through all the different courses. In fact, I think that's as important as any knowledge you get while you're here, is that approach to problem-solving. Because the technology has changed so much. When I was here, we still used bamboo slices. We really did. And if you, later on, we were doing some stuff with the big computer over in Strong Hall, and you would have your punch card and you'd take them over there at night and you'd get them back the next morning, maybe. And the first computer I ever had was an Apple IIe of my own at home in '78. So, you know, you guys have opportunities, and the technology's changed, and it's going to continue to change. And it's going to change at probably a faster rate than it has in the last 30, 40 years. And so therefore, that's why I keep coming back to the most important thing, I think, is the problem-solving approach and the way of thinking about things and so forth that is so darn important. And there's no question, building things and doing things is what turned me on. And hopefully that'll turn you on. What doesn't matter if it's, you know, petroleum or geology or architecture or electronics, computers, mechanical, civil, it's all engineering, and you're just working with different kinds of materials and doing different things. And then, like I said, there's so many sides of that. There's the research, there's design, there's sales, there's on and on. You just have to find what turns you on in that process.
How hard is it for you to develop a new culture, a new group of subordinates?
Changing a culture is very tough, as you undoubtedly know. But it is what makes the difference ultimately. I believe it's the fundamental reason that GM got to where they got to, this culture. Terrific people. Very strong hierarchy. Way too many finance people compared to engineers. Developed a culture that was not really forthcoming with, you know, bad news is just as important to deliver as good news. In fact, probably more so. In fact, by the way, that's something else that I learned this very earlier, maybe in the beginning, but you don't want to ever surprise your boss. Ever. And that's true, I don't care where you're at. So if there's a problem, you better be the first one there to tell him what it is. You're going to have it. I can't tell you how many things I screwed up. But even if it was the board of directors, I told them before they found it out through some other means. And you have to have a culture that's forthcoming that way. And you have to have a culture that, you know, really rewards and prizes people that are honest, straightforward, as opposed to political, etc. And you can only have that with, it's got to start at the top, but it's got to work down through the organization. And that's why I always started with these offsites. And by the way, I didn't really explain that very thoroughly, but I would start with my, you know, maybe the top 20, 30 people on these 3-day offsites. We would spend a year and a half or 2 years rolling that out in the company. And And I went to so many of those things, I can't believe it. We got to go to the factory floor and talk about this is what we're trying to do and why. Changing a culture is very, very tough to do, but it is the defining difference, period. If you got to think of only one thing, that is the most important thing. Because it's not only what you, people, and I said they're the most important, but it's how they work together. And that's the culture, right? And how they interface with each other and how straightforward they are with each other, et cetera, et cetera. And there are so many places where people are just a little bit afraid to speak their mind. And that doesn't work, ultimately. You're far better off if people call a spade, and you have enough respect and confidence in each other that you can accept that. And so culture is key.
Did you ever have to deal with choosing like your interest or your job over your family, or did you have to balance it out?
Very fortunate. I'm still married to the gal I met in the student union at KU, and I have two fantastic kids. But I did move a couple of times that we had long talks about before we did it as a family, and they weren't real happy. In fact, when we moved to Europe, the older one was 16 and the younger one was 14. And the oldest one said he wasn't going. And we were close enough family, and are close enough family, that I was pretty sure that wasn't the case, that give him a few days and come around. He would now, both of them now tell you that was the very best thing that ever happened to them. But if you think back when you were 14 and 16, you were about to get a driver's license at 16, you found out we were going over there in, I think, May, I believe, and he turned 16 in June. And so he didn't really get a driver's license. And in Europe, you don't drive till you're 18. And that was a huge, huge factor. But, as I said, we talked about those things. It wasn't just come home and we tell Connie and the kids, this is what we're going to do. We talked it through and all that. We were fortunate we only really had 2 moves. I left out an awful lot of my career, but I was assistant chief engineer at Oldsmobile in Lansing, Michigan, and then I became head of quality and reliability up there. And so we moved up there for 3 or 4 years, and then went over to Europe, is what I just talked about. So I didn't have to move an awful lot, but I tell you, I learned something from moves. And some of you that have been through a lot of moves in your life, I bet you have recognized some of this. Particularly in overseas moves, it brings the family actually closer together. And of course it broadens tremendously. So it's a great thing for people. But even in the U.S., it tends to draw the family together for a little bit when you move with friends and the networking. So there are some people, I used to say in overseas movies, there are some fraction of people, 15, 20, maybe even 25%, that just can't do it. And you've got to, as the boss or as the employee, you've got to say, hey, this doesn't work for us. We've got to get out of here, we've got to get back, whatever. And believe me, I think in most places, that's pretty understandable. I'm on the Chevron board, and we've got people moving all over the world, and I can tell you that's the way it works there. They tend to be willing to move, but with the buy-in from the family. Because again, ultimately that's what's